Hi everyone, my name is Lil Shadow and today we are going to be going over the best healer build in the game for all three mutations, Lazarus, Genesis, and Dynasty. So with the most recent patch, AGS added mutations and they are pretty gear dependent. I was one of the first to complete an M10 gold with the squad, and I'd like to share my build with you to help you rise to the ranks with your squad or in LFG.
Not even close.
Gold 10,
Not even
dude.
close, baby.
In this video, we are going to be going over the pros and cons of this build, what weapons you should use, plus the skill trees that I run, the main attributes, what type of gear, what kind of gems, and the best perk you should be looking out for all three expeditions. We're going to be going over how to heal with the life staff, how to use the void gauntlet, how to heal with the void gauntlet, melee style or range style, and at the end I'll show you some gameplay of our first M10 gold. I will be posting the full M10 gold run after this video, so if you're interested in the strategies that we use, stay tuned. Currently I am posting my healer build and will be posting my DPS build as soon as I hit M10 on it as well. So make sure you like and subscribe at the end of the video if you like what you see and for future content. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below or stop by my stream and ask me live, twitch.tv/lilshadow. Hope to see you there. Alrighty, so with the intro out of the way, let's move on to the build. So now let's go over the pros and cons. For the pros, you're going to have insane healing output. You're going to be extremely tanky. You're going to be providing a lot of CC and disruption or crowd control. You also provide a huge empower to your team to do more damage. You are also providing a healing reduction to reduce the healing enemies do when doing damage in mutations. You have infinite mana, and this is very important because in mutation 9 and 10 you have no mana regen. As far as the con, the only one I see is that you're not very mobile because you're in full heavy, but it comes with the playstyle of being melee and causing chaos. Next, we're going to be going over what weapons to use. To start off, we're going to go over the life staff and the skill tree. I'm going to be walking you through what talents to select as you level up your weapon. First off, we're going to be going over Absolved. Light and heavy attacks no longer take mana. This is huge. This will also help you do DPS when you don't need to heal without losing any mana. Next, we're going to be going over and grabbing our first skill, Sacred Ground. It puts an area on the ground that lasts for 15 seconds, and it heals for 20% weapon damage every second. Next, we're going to be going over to the right side. We're going to get Bend Light. After you dodge, your heals are 20% more effective. After that, we're going to get our second skill, Beacon. Beacon shoots out a light projectile that deals 146 weapon damage, so it also does damage to your enemies. But you can also attach it to your teammates so that it heals them as they move around. After that, we're gonna be getting Light's Embrace. This is a very strong single target heal. The target is healed for 100% weapon damage plus 30 for each buff on the target. That sounds OP, and it actually is. You can actually full heal from 0, like almost 0, like 1 HP. If you're playing it right, you'll full heal someone or yourself. Next, we're going to be getting Holy Ground. Regenerate stamina and mana 100% faster while in Sacred Ground. So if you are trying to conserve mana, try and stand in your healing circle and you'll be regenerating mana pretty fast. Next, we're going to get Blessed. Allies that are in the circle are healed for 50% more from all healing. So if your allies want to get huge heals, make sure they're standing in there, or you can use your single target or your beacon and they'll get more heals from that too. Next, we're going to be getting Revitalize. When you hit a light attack, it reduces all of your cooldown by 5%. That's very strong. Your light attacks don't take mana, so next we're going to be getting Intensify. Heavy attacks give you increased healing by 10% for 10 seconds, maximum of 3 stacks. So total 30%. It's pretty strong. After that, we're getting Blissful Touch. Light attacks now heal targets for 20% weapon damage when passing through an ally. So this basically, whenever you hit an enemy, it shoots out a little wave of healing. And if allies are close to it, they'll get healed for 20%. You can also shoot the ground in case there's no enemies and it'll still heal them or yourself. After that, we're going to be getting Sacred Protection, while holding a life staff increases the amount of incoming healing to all friendlies in your group by 5%. Next, we're going to be getting Desperate Seed. When you heal an ally with less than 50% health, your cooldowns are reduced by 10%, and it's on a 5-second cooldown. This is also pretty strong. After that, we're going to be getting Mending Touch. Heavy attacks now remove 1 debuff when passing through an ally. If you charge up a heavy attack and aim it at an ally, they'll get cleansed of any debuffs that they have, 1 at a time. Now we're going to get our ultimate, which is Divine Blessing. Whenever you heal an ally, if their health is below 50%, you heal them for 30% more, which is very, very strong. After that, we're going to get Protector Strength. If you have a buff, heal 10% more. Next, we're going to be getting Infused Light. Beacon's area of effect is now 50% larger, so that kind of helps with AoE healing. Next, Radiance Blessing. It just lasts 5 seconds longer. We're also going to be getting Protector's Touch. Anytime you use a light and heavy attack, you receive a 50% Fortify for 3 seconds. And Fortify reduces incoming damage, so it's pretty strong as well. And last but not least, Spirits United. Increase mana regeneration for you and your group with 3%. This not only helps you, but it helps your teammates, especially if they're running like Ice Gauntlets or Fire Staves. Next, let's go over the Void Gauntlet and what skill tree to use when you want to be a melee Void Gauntlet player or range. We're going to start with the melee version first. To start off, we're going to be getting Keen Confidence. It increases our crit chance while above 50% health. After that, we're going to be grabbing our first ability, which is Oblivion. It's a circle that you drop on the ground that empowers yourself and friendlies by 20%. Whenever you hold right click, you're going to be draining health from your player, and that health that gets drained is reduced by 50% when you're below 25 mana. So what this means is that whenever you're draining health when you hold right click, we're going to be grabbing our next skill, which is Orb of Decay. It's a purple orb that flies out of your hands that causes damage to enemies hit, and when it reaches max range, it turns back and it turns green, which causes a heal over time to any hit, but you can also detonate it to increase the range. And I'll explain how to use that in the rotation part of the video. Next, we're going to be grabbing Refreshing Harvest. Anytime you hold right click, it reduces your cooldowns by 10% per second that you hold down right click. And this is the reason that you see me holding right click a lot during my runs. So I can literally spam Oblivion Circle to empower my team and spam Scream to reduce the healing of enemies and interrupt them and root them to the ground, as well as spamming Orb of Decay to do some damage and also heal your team. Next, we're going to be grabbing Radiant Efficiency. Mana costs are reduced by 25% while above 50% mana. After that, we're going to be grabbing everything below it for that skill to Detonating Orb. And this is what allows you to detonate the Healing Orb based on where your team is to do a burst of healing and a heal over time. After that, we're going to be grabbing everything under Petrifying Scream, which is our third and final skill. But it's basically a purple scream right in front of you, and it inflicts root on enemies. It also disables them for 2 seconds, which is basically like an interrupt, so you can interrupt enemies that are casting something, or just pretty strong. The root is also increased when you hit enemies below 50% health. And lastly, as a third perk, it'll grant you Fortify based on the enemy's hit up to 30%. 3 or more enemies, you're going to be hitting 30% Fortify for free. And you can literally spam this ability, so you're going to be running around with 30% Fortify from one ability. Next is Refreshing Frailty. I believe that's how you say it. You get 5% cooldown reduction on all abilities that successfully hit an enemy. Have 3 or more debuffs, and that includes debuffs from your teammates. Next is Refreshing Precision. Anytime your abilities crit, you're going to be getting 10% cooldown reduction on all abilities. After that, we're going to be increasing our crit chance by 10% when all abilities are on cooldown, which is pretty good. After that, we're going to be grabbing everything under the Oblivion tree, which is Withering Oblivion. It's going to inflict Weaken, reducing their damage by 5%, and it stacks up to 3 times, which is pretty good. As well as Invigorating Oblivion, which grants you 15 stamina per second to yourself and friendlies who stand in the circle. So this is very good for your tank. That way he can keep regenerating stamina for his shield. And there's also stacks for your tank as well. After that, we'll be grabbing Void Caller. Anytime you land an ability at 6 stacks, you're going to consume it, and you're going to do like an AoE heal that does 30% weapon damage per second, and it lasts 5 seconds. This doesn't proc too often, but it's better than everything else. And last but not least, Mending Evasion. Anytime you dodge while full mana, you're going to heal yourself for 80% weapon damage, and it scales off of your focus. It's also on a 20-second cooldown. Alright, so that was it for the melee playstyle skill tree. Now we're going to be going over to the ranged. The only thing that changes is you remove the Scream ability and you use Essence Rupture for a little bit more healing, as well as more stamina regen whenever you attach it to an enemy. Attaching it to an enemy also causes anyone that does damage to that target to heal for 20% of the damage done, and it lasts 10 seconds, as well as overflowing essence at the very bottom. Whenever the skill ends, it does heal anyone around the target for 4%, anyone around the target within 4 meters for 80% of your weapon damage, and it scales off of focus. And last but not least, we are going to be getting Glimpse of the Void. Anytime you land an ability on an enemy, you get a stack. Once you reach 4 stacks, your next successful range attack is going to instantly reset all of your cooldowns, and it has a 15-second cooldown, which is pretty good. If you do not want to run Void Gauntlet, I recommend the Warhammer. So let's go ahead and walk you through what talents and skills you should be using on this Warhammer. Alright, so to start off, we're going to be going over Hammer Time. Gain Empower on every heavy attack, increases attack damage by 20% for 4 seconds. We're going to get Hardened Steel, and adds Grit. Grit causes you to not be staggered when you're in the motion of doing the heavy attack. It's also going to grant you 20% extra damage, or damage reduction, sorry. After that, we're going to grab our first skill, Wrecking Ball. This is one of the CC abilities. You strike the ground with the hammer, causing weapon damage and flattening all the enemies in the area. Pretty strong. After that, we're going to be going for Outnumbered. Increase damage absorption by 10%, makes it a little bit more tanky when there's 2 or more enemies near you. After that, we're going to grab our next ability, which is called Shockwave. It does an AoE earthquake that deals weapon damage, and it also applies stuns to all impacted targets for 2 seconds. After that, we're going to be going to Safety Measures. On successful hit, players obtain Fortify, granting 10% damage resistance for 4 seconds. Makes you even more tankier. After that, we're going to be going and grabbing Power Through Pain. After taking damage, you deal 35% extra damage. It's pretty strong. Next, Contemption. On targets under 30% HP, increase damage done by heavy attacks by 15%. After that, we're going to grab our last ability, which is called Armor Breaker. Powerful swing that penetrates 35% of the target's armor and deals weapon damage. A 12-second cooldown. We're going to grab Grit to that attack, making it so that we're not able to be staggered. After that, we're going to be getting Lasting Trauma, which adds a rend to any other target's hit, which increases the damage they take. After that, we're going to head over to the right, and whenever you stun them, it causes a weaken as well, decreasing the damage dealt from the target by 10%. Next, we're going to grab Concussive Impact, 50% damage against targets affected by Warhammer debuffs. So whenever you use your Shockwave or your Rend, your Armor Breaker, you're going to be doing 15% more damage to them as long as they have the debuff active. After that, we're going to be getting Torrig Crater. Expands your Shockwave to a 4-meter radius. Next, we're going to get Breathing Room. All targets within 1.5 meters of the target are also flattened, which is pretty good for AoE flattening, which is good for AoE CC. After that, we're going to grab Quick Recovery. Whenever you do heavy attacks, it reduces the cooldown by 7%. Next, we're also going to get Prevailing Spirit. Retain 35% of the damage dealt as health whenever you use those 2 abilities. Next, we're going to grab Epitome of Bonk. Increases armor penetration by 10% for all Warhammer standard attacks. And last but not least, we're going to grab Facilitated Expedition. After hitting a target with an active debuff, Obtain Haste, which increases your movement speed by 15% for 3 seconds. It's going to make you move faster around the target or other players whenever you have a debuff on them. So now that we've went over all of the weapons you can use, next let's go over the main attributes. For the main attributes, you're going to aim to get 100 con, whether it be through gear, through food, or whatever. And then the rest should go into focus. So I usually just run 100 con, and then with buffs and everything, I get around 410 focus, which is pretty good. And it's more than enough to do an M10 gold. The main reason I do get 100 con is for the increased health. You can go with less con, but I feel as a healer, you must be the pillar of the team. If you die, everything just starts snowballing downwards and everyone else is gonna die. So make sure you don't die, have 100 con, it's pretty safe. And it's more than enough to keep your team alive with 410 focus. As far as consumables go, I usually go with the 40 con food. If I'm under geared, if I'm over geared for the specific level that I'm doing, I usually just go with the 33 focus food just to save money, because money does not grow on trees. And of course, you're going to bring your infused health potions, your infused regen potions, your infused mana potions. You're also going to bring powerful gemstone dust, or the tier 4 one, as well as ancient ward potions just in case, or corrupted ward potions, or earth ward potions. Just depends on what dungeon you're doing, as well as coatings for your weapon in case you want to do a little bit more damage but not necessary, as well as powerful incense. You can also do the level 4 one, but I believe the more you have stacked up, the better. Alrighty, now let's move on to the best part, the gear, stats, and perks. We're going to be starting off with the armor. For your armor attributes, you're either going to want full focus, high focus plus con, or high con plus focus, or just con. As far as the weapon attributes, you should follow the same priority. For this build, we are going to be running full heavy gear to be as tanky as possible. For your life staff, you're going to want to try and get the legendary Will of the Ancients, so you can upgrade that to 625. It has the best in slot weapon perks, which is Blessed, Refreshing Move, and Refreshing. Blessed increases your healing by 28%. Refreshing Move reduces the cooldowns every time you light attack or heavy attack. And Refreshing reduces your global cooldown by 2%. If you do not have a Will of the Ancients, I suggest farming Laz to get at least a 599 and then upgrading it using Umbra Shards, or try and upgrade a 600 life staff with at least Blessed and Refreshing Move. The best perks for a Void Gauntlet, in my opinion, would be Blessed, Putrefy and Scream, Keen and Refreshing Move. Blessed because your orb heals Putrefy and Scream, so anytime you scream on a target, their healing is reduced by 28%. Keen, so you have more crit chance and your cooldowns are reduced more often. And Refresh Your Move, just in case you are playing range, you can use that to your advantage. My current one is not best in slot, so if you do have a best in slot one based on my requirements, hit me up. The best perk for a Warhammer will be Sundering Shockwave. You can try and get that on your weapon or your gear pieces, doesn't matter as long as you have it. For perks on your gear, you're going to want Ancient Ward for Laz, Angry Earth Ward for Genesis, and Corrupted Ward for Dynasty. You're also going to want at least one piece with Fortified Sacred Ground. And depending on what weapon you're using, you're going to want Petrifying Scream if you're using the Void Gauntlet, and Sundering Shockwave for the hammer. If you were not able to get it on the weapon, then you can get it on the gear piece. And last but not least, Revitalizing Beacon I would say the two that are most mandatory are the ward perk for the specific dungeon, as well as fortified sacred ground. If you can get the other two that I listed, it would be great. If not, then don't worry about it. But if you want best in slot, those are the perks that you need. For best perks on jewelry, we're going to start with the amulet. We're going to aim for getting health, divine, and refreshing evasion. Health increases your health, divine increases the amount of healing you receive, and refreshing evasion reduces your cooldowns every time you dodge. For the best perks on a ring, as a healer, you're going to want to prioritize having sacred minimum. It's going to increase your outgoing healing, as well as hardy. Hardy is going to increase your max stamina. And then last, you're going to want refreshing evasion. It's going to reduce your cooldowns every time you dodge. For your earring, you're going to want refreshing toast. This reduces your cooldowns of all of your potions. It's pretty good. It comes in handy and saves your life a lot. As well as nimble, you have 9.8 increased stamina regen, which is decent. And then the last perk, you can play with whatever you want. I just chose luck, but you can get any other perk that you feel you would need. All right, well, that was it for the jewelry. Next, we're gonna move on to your weapons, what gems you want to use, as well as on your armor. For your life staff, you're gonna want pristine diamond. It increases your outgoing healing and damage while at full health. For your ward gauntlet, you're gonna want pristine diamond as well. It's gonna increase your outgoing healing and damage when you're at full health. And for your warhammer, you're going to want a pristine amber gem. It's gonna scale your damage off of focus. Now for what gems to run on your gear, I recommend just running opals, but it's personal preference though. This depends on if you are kind of scared of being hit with physical attacks or elemental. The reason I run opals over, let's say, the void resist or the fire resist gems is because I don't want to keep switching out my gems depending on the mutation. So opals are a safe bet. Alright, so now that we went over all the gear you should be wearing, what gems, what stats, what perks, now we're going to actually be going over how to use the life staff and the void gauntlet combination. To start off, you're going to want to start with 3 heavy attacks to proc your intensify. After that, you're going to want to dodge every 5 seconds to proc your bend light buff. Once you do all that, then you can drop both your sacred ground and your beacon, or you can rotate, do your fortified sacred ground, and then later on throw your beacon out just to kind of spread out the heals if you do need to spread out for some reason. And then just throw out Light's Embrace on anyone that's low HP to full heal them. Your intensify lasts 10 seconds, so make sure you use at least 1 heavy attack within the 10 seconds to rebuff or keep the buff going. If you do happen to lose the buff, then just do your 3 heavy attack rotation again. Now we're going to go over how to use the void gauntlet. To start off, you're going to want to use your oblivion circle, which empowers your teammates and debuffs any enemy inside it. After that, you're going to want to use the scream to kind of freeze them in place and reduce their healing from the damage that they do. And then after that, you're going to want to use your orb, and you're going to want to aim it towards enemies. But if you want to heal, you want to kind of aim the orb towards your teammates. If your teammates are kind of spread out, you do want to detonate the orb when it's coming back, and it has a larger radius. If you're not very good at detonating the orb, then I would just suggest aiming the orb towards your teammates and then just letting it come back by itself. In order to get the heal, they have to be standing in the path, so it's just up to you. Once you use all your abilities, you have 2 options. First one is the one that I recommend. If it's not a risky situation, is to hold right click. This will sacrifice your health and reduce your cooldowns every second. If you don't want to use that and it's too risky, then you can just left click and aim it at the enemies and hope you crit. Once you do crit, your cooldowns are reduced, so it's up to you. You can do both, you can do a mix, and both work perfectly fine. So your goal with the void gauntlet is to drop as many empowering circles as you can, or the oblivion skill, as well as scream everything that's possible. Also, you want to keep an eye out on your life staff skills. Once they do come back up, you can swap your life staff and then throw the circles down again and just repeat. As far as your Warhammer, make sure you double run the target or targets whenever the abilities are available, and no one needs healing. If you do think the Void Gauntlet is a little bit complicated, just use the Warhammer and you'll be perfectly fine. And with that being said, hopefully I didn't miss anything. I went over so many things. I'm pretty sure I missed something. If I got anything wrong, or if you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave a comment below. If you guys learned a thing or two, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.